so people I've never seen before. So I hope you can get some value out of this. I'm going to do a PowerPoint. So I will screen share. Just finding it when I screen share. It's not where I expected to be.
Just hover your mouse down the bottom there, Jenny, and just the bottom line should come up.
Is it visible?
Yeah, if you hover with your mouse at the bottom of the screen of your screen.
Yeah, on the share screen.
And then you'll press the green share button.
Yeah, I did that.
You've done that. And can you find which screen your presentation's on? Or is your presentation open already?
It was open. Sorry. I thought I was better at technology than this. I'll go back to screen share because it was coming up with something I've not seen before. So entire screen.
Yeah, so you'll press the green share.
Yes, I have, and say share. There's a blue button's come up now.
Okay. Yep, here we go. Yep.
I'm sharing that.
So you're sharing the wrong screen. Oh, look at you.
Does it come up now?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay. Good. Well, firstly, I can't see anyone now, so that's a bit weird.
We can see you.
That's all right. If there's questions, you'll just have to yell out because I can't see hands or anything coming up. Okay, just firstly, just a little bit about me. I'm here because I'm the president of Rover Listerfield, and I think the qualification for me to come is that we've actually had 9 members, and I think Peter thought that we could share a little bit of reflection on how we think that's happened with our club. And I'm not an expert. In fact, I want to make a couple of disclaimers that I'm not an expert. Looking at who's been presenting is very daunting, really, to see all the people with all the experience they've got. I have only been a Rotarian for about 6 years. I have been around Rotary for about 35 because my husband's been in Rotary that long and he's been a DG. So I have been to lots of clubs and lots of different meetings and events. That's given me some extra fuel to think about, well, what is it we want to do to make certain our club is successful and moves forward. So I'm not an expert. The second disclaimer, I want to give all credit to Peter for coming up with a very interesting title, but I do not think it's easy at all to get new members. So you're very optimistic, Pete. I know you're there, but it's not. It's not as easy as plucking an apple off a tree. So I want to go through and reflect on how our club has managed to get 9 members. Part of this, at the end, I'll go through the Fit for Purpose membership workshop that I was lucky enough to attend in Sydney in October, where there were some good ideas that were given that we have implemented. I would say, I think that perhaps getting members can be easier. And I'll use this little analogy, thinking about plucking apples. If you prepare the ground, you plant the seeds and skip to the thing once you get new members, have a clear purpose, what you're going to do with those members. And I think this is what we've done in our club fairly effectively. So I'll move on to sort of go through some of the details of what I'm sort of thinking about there. And I have spoken to many members of the club to say, well, what do you think it is that's come together so well for us to be able to bring in 9 new members? And I think the only one we're going to lose this year is one who's 85 and decided he's past it, and one who's going to move overseas. So that's quite a good point as well. So firstly, preparing the ground, which sees making the club a fertile place for Rotary membership to grow. In this, I think that if you're going to attract potential members, people who come and visit, it comes back to the club experience, which we've heard a lot about over time. That's been focused on as an essential part of members. But what I was thinking about specifically is to try and ensure there's no barriers. I know we're really lucky with our club. We're one of the youngest, I think the second youngest in District 9815, formed about 25 years ago, and 21 years ago. And we were formed after consideration about the things in Rotary that so many people cling on to that feel are essential to Rotary, but in fact can be a barrier. And what I'm talking about here is some of the rituals that can make people feel out of place. So toasts, for instance. Having been to a lot of clubs, I often think it's done in such a perfunctory manner that it actually doesn't really mean anything particularly much to toast Rotary and to toast Australia. And yet many people in clubs really fight that Rotary isn't Rotary if they don't do their toasts. It makes me think about, I know, and my father-in-law was a Rotarian many, many years ago, there used to be a Rotary songbook, and part of Rotary was to sing a song from the Rotary songbook fairly often at meetings. Now, that's well gone, and I think anyone now would think back and think, oh my goodness, I don't know that anyone at our club would be interested in that. I imagine it was probably a fairly tortuous thing to get rid of that at the time. So some of these things that seem so essential, perhaps maybe not. The other thing, of course, is a Sergeant of Arms and a fine session. We actually had a visitor a few weeks ago at our club speaking who'd been to many clubs. He's promoting a book he's written. And whilst we were chatting over dinner, he said, what's with this weird fine session that the clubs do? Now, he was someone of an age and a stage of life that might have been interested in Rotary, and he felt it was actually weird to have this fine session. I can understand what it's about. It's about a little bit of extra money. We just put $5 on the entry fee for our members to get that bit of extra money. It's about a bit of lightheartedness, a bit of humour perhaps in the evening. I must admit many fine sessions I've been in have been verging on embarrassing for the recipient of the fine, sometimes sexist, and very rarely can a Sergeant at Arms actually achieve that balance of being funny without stepping over the line. So it's something that to really think about. Is it a positive or could it be a barrier? I think it's also can be fairly exclusive. My husband, who's not a drinking violet, was in a club for 2 years before the Sergeant at Arms actually fined him. The Sergeant at Arms generally fined his golfing mates for their mishits and etc. So it's not going to be making people feel very included to be ignored. And I think the thing about something like that should be to acknowledge, to show that people are being noticed, not for the embarrassing things, but they are being noticed as people. I was just thinking I might pause just for a minute and just have people think about and maybe jot down if there are any barriers in your club, barriers to attracting members that could be removed. Perhaps an age profile that's not going to attract 50-year-olds. If everyone's in their 70s, you can't do much about that until you actually do perhaps get a few younger members. But are there any other barriers? So I'll just pause for a minute while people have a bit of a think about their club, because that is something you might be able to do something about. Okay, so moving on. So the other thing about the club experience, I think, is the activities, what you're actually doing in your meeting. When people come, we've been very careful to have quite a variety in our meeting program. So not always a speaker. And I know Colin's big on that the meal meeting speaker model is not what young ones are looking for. So we've done several times, we've done packing nights on our normal meeting night. We've packed. In this case, it was for Foothills Community Care, and we packed for their Christmas Advent hamper program. So we made some hampers and we packed other items. And being able to engage people in actually doing something, they've come to Rotary, they've joined Rotary to feel they're making a difference. And I think that was a night that was somewhat chaotic. Everyone felt afterwards was very, very impactful and a good experience. We've actually packed also for Entracoma. We've had visits to the Sikh temple, thanks to Jean Harrison initially for introducing us to that. And we've done things like we've been to an ambulance museum. So lots of variety to get away from the speaker model. We've also given some thought to the fact we have quite a few members who work long hours, long distances to travel, maybe other commitments on a Tuesday night. They're keen to be club members but can't necessarily come on our Tuesday night. So we've instituted this year a Saturday coffee club catch-up, and a number of the ones who don't come Tuesday come to a Saturday coffee catch-up. That was just for a chat, but evolving out of that, one of the members who comes there has actually now instituted a program sending computers to Sri Lanka, and she's been able to sort of gain some support and talk about that with the group that come along on Saturday morning, not every week, about every 5 weeks. And that's been an effective way of keeping our members who can't come to the meeting bonded and engaged with the club. One thing I'm very conscious of, we're actually, people might say we're a very informal club, but we're not casual. We start bang on 7 o'clock, and I'm very conscious of trying to have the meeting finished bang on 8:30. And one of the members who joined very recently made the comment that she really appreciated the fact that it was tight, that she knew it would be finished by 8:30, ready to go home. Interestingly, often our members now are arriving close to an hour beforehand, and there's often half an hour or 40 minutes after the meeting's finished when people are still hanging around chatting, perhaps even having another cup of coffee after the meeting. So, but the meeting part is finished. I want to talk, of course, a big part of what goes on in the club is about the fellowship. And I know it's been said many times about clubs being welcoming to visitors and potential new members. Some clubs have a designated person to meet, and that's a wonderful thing. But I think sometimes that person can feel they can be stuck with someone not meeting with their friends. And it's good if the club can actually look around and make certain that any new person meets several people and is shared around in a sense. So that's really important. I think if most clubs were surveyed, they say, yes, we're very friendly. But I think it has to go a bit deeper than that. I think people have to feel that they're going to bond. So there has to be opportunities to actually have fun, to get together and have fun. So all the other things, even a Bunnings barbecue, can be a great experience of having some fun and carry on some talk about footy. And I know we've got members who've joined because they saw our club members at a barbecue, saw that we're having fun and thought, well, I'll make some inquiries. That just looks like a fun thing to do. So, we make certain we have fun things, lighten things in a way. But we want the members to feel they actually really can belong. Now, that's not an easy thing. Not everyone's going to be best buddies with everyone in the club. But if people come in to visit and feel, I don't think I'm ever going to be part of that group, it's too tightly bonded, they go away with their caravans for holidays and have known each other for 30 years, it's come to be very obvious that it's actually not going to be an easy place to actually form that friendship that's a bit deeper than just coming along once a week. So I think that's a really important thing to try and be always working on. And I think it's a work in progress for our club too. Here we have one of our most recent members at a Bunnings barbecue. In fact, I think that was before she was inducted. So we have lots of opportunities. These members who've only just joined but feel part of Rotary already, that they saw this seat, there was a Rotary seat, and sent a photo in. And we've had theme nights where we played footy and that sort of thing. So we'll try to have a lot of opportunities to show Rotary can be fun. Moving on from that, once you've got a fertile club, a club that people are going to come along and enjoy and think that's not been a waste of my time, we all need to ensure that the community knows our club exists and they know about the good that we do. Now, I think one of the issues that Rotary's suffered over many years is that once upon a time, if you did good work, you didn't talk about it. You didn't publicise the good work that you did. And Rotary doesn't get much press, really. It was very interesting when Ollie Pickett was named the Senior Australian of the Year for his work with wheelchairs for kids. I imagine other people noticed too. There was no publicity. That was a program that started with Rotary and is still very much supported by Rotarians, and in Victoria very much publicised and supported by Rotary. And yet the mainstream press did not mention that. So we really have to take it upon ourselves to try and let our community know that our club exists and that we are doing good. I think these days we have to accept we're moving into an era where electronic communication is just so important. One thing I think that's quite central to our success this year has been we've got a new updated website. It's interesting, it's well presented, it's actually been put together by someone for whom that's their job. So we are extremely lucky. Basically, he's a professional and he's done that for us for free. I do know, though, that there's a lot of other resources for clubs out there. People like David here, who's with us within the district, a lot of people that can help. There's a club runner template. Our Rotarian who has done our website would be happy to run a workshop in the morning to help people with the fundamentals of running a website. I think we all acknowledge these days, if you want to find something, you move, you want a dentist, you Google dentist near me. And that's what people are doing more and more if they want to find Rotary clubs. So you have to be there, and you have to be there in a way that's interesting and people will take another look. I think that it's very important, obviously, that contact details are accurate and updated. One of our club members, we're encouraging our club members to go to different clubs, and one went to a club, looked on their website, saw where they were going to meet, went to the restaurant that was named, and to be told, no, they're not here this week, they're down the road, the other restaurant. He trotted down to that restaurant. Oh, no, they're not here this week, not certain where they are. So someone who was quite keen to come and visit was made quite difficult. And if that was someone who was beginning out in their journey to inquire about Rotary, we can all imagine they probably would have just hopped in the car and gone home. Another thing about our website is it's set up in a way that if anyone makes a query on the website, there's an email sent to about 4 people and it's followed up straight away, probably within 24 hours. And it's great credit to our membership chair, Bob, who does that. He often has had a coffee and a sit down and a conversation. It might have been over an hour with people within a week of that query coming up on our website. I've heard stories chatting with people about someone who moved, decided that they had time in their life to join Rotary, sent a query to a website, nothing. With great perseverance, they sent a second query and nothing. I know that person then joined another Rotary Club, perhaps a little bit further away, and is now a very active member of that Rotary Club. And the initial one probably doesn't know they've lost the potential of a very excellent Rotarian because they didn't look at their website often enough and follow up on the query. And I would say that is probably one of the most significant things with our success this year. Adding to that, we've probably had, whilst we've had 9 new members, I think we've probably had another 9 people who've inquired, some of whom have come to visit a meeting, a couple of whom then joined Lions, but others who decided it wasn't quite the time for them to do it. So it shows that we've had quite a number of contacts and they've all been followed up. And you cannot expect everyone who inquires to join your club. I had a little bit of a look at a few websites for clubs in the district. And one had, latest news on November the 29th, 2023. Not a very up-to-date posting. Another club, very dynamic club, but one of the things on their first page was Happy New Year, 2020. Another one had a thing about how dynamic their speaking program was. And then there was a tab for speakers. Oh, and it was empty. So I know it's a lot of work. To continually be up-to-date with things will be a lot of work, but I think this would be one of the things that's most important in reaching out to the community and being found when people are looking for Rotary. Of course, Facebook is another thing, so all other forms of social media. I looked at someone else's Facebook page and they'd had Facebook entries, yes, March the 29th, February the 5th and January the 1st. Not really speaking of a club with activities going on they wanted to know the public about or updating their social media very often. There could be other forms of media. We're very lucky again that we have a community newspaper in our area and we have a monthly article in that. And again, we've had people inquire about coming to Rotary because they have seen our article. Now, there are not too many left, unfortunately, but there are other areas in which there's a community newspaper and it's probably worth clubs who have that in their area inquiring, could we get an article in there? We were absolutely thrilled last month that our article ended up with half the story on the front page with a photo and our logo. So that's excellent advertising for our club. So there's we fund the community service page at a fairly small cost and keeps us in a very good relationship with the local news, Rotary, the Rover Listerville Community News. Our newsletter, we ensure it's a very good newsletter. It goes out anyone who shows a hint of interest. We ask them, would they like to get our newsletter? And we've got a circulation for probably over 100 people. Sometimes it just seems like it goes out into the ether, but every so often someone may get in touch and say, I'll support that raffle or I'll support that fundraising thing you've got going on. You think, okay, people are reading it, people are noticing it, and it's being electronic, it's no issue whatsoever to have names on a distribution list and send out that information about the club. I just want to make a point about photos, and I know there has been a session on public image. We're quite particular about choosing photos that tell a story. It should tell a story, and they should be edited in a way to make them good photos. And of course, and I know Peter and Colin say this, you should be showing Rotarians in action and avoid the firing squad photos when everyone's standing up in a line, grinning at the camera. And in particular, I will look back at some of the photos that we've had in the past and I think, oh my goodness, there's Rotarians sitting in the front of the table, people gathered at looking really bored, and that's really a poor thing to have. So here we've got a couple of our events we've been at. The Clean Up Australia Day was a posed photo, but it tells a story, and I think it's effective. This one I put in because someone sent this to me from one of our meetings. I don't know whether they actually thought I would use it, but you can all see so much table and glasses, the backs of people, and honestly, they look like they might be about all ready to have a little snooze. So certainly not a good photo to use in any way, except to illustrate it. It's not a good photo. Okay, after you've got new members, I think it's very important to think about what you're going to do with your new members to keep them engaged. And again, it comes back to the idea of retention. And we know that's one of the challenges. That's new members come in and we have we hear the figures frequently, as many or more members go out at the end of the Rotary year. And I think it comes down to projects. We're making a point of asking our members why they're joining, because the whole thing about members leaving because they have unmet expectations is a very important point. And if you don't know what they're expecting, it's very easy to not meet those expectations. And many of them will say that they come for the fellowship. And of course, many come to try and provide some service to the community, to give back to the community. So they've got to have some way to do that, and not 2 years down the track after they've joined. So it's important to have things that are not just fundraising either, that they feel I'm actually making a difference in the lives of other people, making a difference for good. And they need to feel proud of it, that having joined and paying a fee to join, to be a volunteer, that there is something to be proud about and something they can talk to their friends about what being in Rotary is meaning, that they're contributing to the community. I think once upon a time we did feel that we'd have to leave members, not put pressure on them. I'm not talking about putting pressure on to do things, but not even offering them the opportunity until they'd settled in for a year or so. And I think that's a risk. I think that they need to be involved in, even if it's in a small way, something they feel, yes, I'm doing my bit at the minute. And then when they become more, they've drunk the Kool-Aid a bit more, then there's a chance for them to do something more impactful. Also, I think it's a good thing to ensure that the skills that people are bringing, that we talk to them about it. What is it you'd like to do? It was great with our member who's doing the website, that he actually started working on that before he had fully decided to become a Rotarian. So to know what people can actually offer to our organisation, or they might be interested in learning new skills. With a very experienced webmaster, we've actually got people learning how to edit and add things to the website, and it's actually quite an interesting project for people to be involved in something where they're actually learning new skills, and that's all part of the experience of being in Rotary. So here are just a few of the things. Although these three are things that, and these are in several of these photos here, there's new members who've got involved quite early. Obviously one is turning sausages, but that wasn't a fundraiser, that was to support an organisation who provide food for people at risk. And then there's a veggie garden there that's being looked after, 2 vegetable gardens actually, so some very willing workers getting their hands dirty and engaging with some action. We've also had a lot of publicity about a couple of our overseas projects that I think our members are very, very thrilled to be able to really make a difference. The bottom photo, it's actually a lovely story because we have funded a boat engine. The boat was funded a few years ago, but a new engine has been bought, and safety vests for these people. And this is off Kirrawin Island. The first time they've ever had safety vests, and they're very thrilled to have them. But the point is that this boat, which was a fishing boat, is also used to save people. And in a very short period of time, it has saved tens of lives of people who've got caught out in the weather when they go in their little dugout canoes. And we've been able to basically help save people's lives by funding the new motor. And our members are very proud of that. The last photo is installing some solar lighting in a school in Uganda, where we've become involved, and that will help the education outcomes of those children be so much better because they can work at night. And again, we're very proud of those projects. So as I've said, we meet with new members to see what their expectations are, and we have a range of activities so that new members can find something active to do that suits their skills and their available time. We've also found that this year, with a lot of new members, there's been a lot of new ideas about projects and activities, and that's been quite exciting to have people coming forward and say, well, I've been giving some thought to, I've seen people sleeping in their cars, what can we do about that? And ideas have been coming forward quite a lot of ideas, and with new blood and new thinking, that's something that can really reinvigorate the club. So that's been something we've been very, very pleased to see happening as well. So now I'll just talk a bit about the Fit for Purpose workshop that happened in Sydney. What I'll talk about was what I call the Judy Ford model. The presenter was this lady, Judy Ford, who said her model was guaranteed to get you at least one new member if you followed her model exactly. The material that she provided is available on a link, and if people would get in touch, I could send the link to it. The whole presentation was recorded. The idea with this is that club members nominate people within their circle to invite, not necessarily friends. It might be their dentist, the person in the news agent, but people they think are at a stage of their life they might be interested in learning a bit more about Rotary, might be interested in joining. People who perhaps have a commitment to giving back to the community, they might be already involved in volunteer work. So our club members were asked to provide names, which a number of people did. And we also looked at people who were on the periphery that we'd sort of seen over the years, and we've kept lists of people who have shown interest at some point. So quite a lot of people were invited. They were invited via a handwritten invitation from the president, along the lines of that a respected member of our club has nominated you as someone who might be interested. You have shown you have a sense of community awareness and are willing to give back, with a little bit of information about Rotary itself, but in saying that they might be interested to join with like-minded people to learn a bit more about Rotary. And it was effective. And Judy Ford made the point that these days it's very easy to flick an email with information or an invitation into the trash can. A handwritten, hand-addressed envelope with a stamp on it attracts a lot of attention. And she was absolutely right. I had phone calls from people saying, this was just so unusual. I haven't had a handwritten letter and a stamped envelope for such a long time, and they read it. So it does catch attention, and that was quite effective in that way. We had a cocktail party format, free food for them, and a complimentary glass of wine. As it was a cocktail party format, it was mostly standing up, and the members were encouraged to mingle with all the visitors and to be as charming and as warm and welcoming as they possibly could be, which they did to an excellent way. So here's a photo of the night with people mingling and enjoying some food, and it was a great atmosphere in the room on that night. There was very little formality. I spoke for a bit, tried to keep it very tight, and then we had 5 board members were given 2 minutes each to speak. I guess we've all experienced times when you give a Rotarian a microphone and they're so committed and passionate that it's really hard to get them to get to the end of what they want to say. So the board members were told they'd have 2 minutes, and pretty much they stuck to it, perhaps 2.5, perhaps a little bit over, but very tight. But they were given a specific question to answer, and the questions were distributed well in advance. So they knew what they were to talk about and were given time to think about a clear, succinct answer. The questions covered a range of things. Some were about a specific project, so people would get a bit of information about the sort of projects we do, but some were quite personal about what is it that keeps you in Rotary after 20 years, or what was your Rotary moment that really made you see Rotary as something that you were very committed to. And I must say all the board members did an excellent job. It was also very tightly controlled, with the MC standing beside them, just reminding them to keep to the time, and that was quite effective. What we also did was we got the visitors to provide their contact details and to indicate if they wish to receive the club newsletter, which they all, of course, said they would. And so they are now on our mailing list, and we'll be getting Rotary information ongoing. They were also, and this is an important part of the Judy Ford model, followed up with a phone call within the next few days afterwards to see how they enjoyed the night, invited to attend again, any feedback. Now, not everyone there is at a time. Some were already doing a lot of community work and said it was fascinating to hear about. Some said, oh, later on when my life gets to a different stage, so I would certainly think about joining Rotary. It was very interesting. But since that night, we have actually inducted 3 new members, and we have, as I said before, 2 more sort of that we're just trying to land, really. So it was worthwhile. We also made certain that there was no pressure. It was easy. It was just an information night, and we didn't talk about handing out membership papers. Unfortunately, I can remember times in the past when a visitor would come in, they were hardly in the door when someone had sort of jokingly, I think, say, but, oh, we'll give you the membership papers. I think that's a no-no. It's a bit scary. Whilst not everyone that was there is going to become a member, some of the contacts that we gained from that, when they learned about what we're doing, we talked about some of the things that were coming up. We had people, one company who have offered, they gave us $300 worth of toys for a raffle that we were supporting. There's a raffle prize. Another company gave us a voucher for an experience. So even that is very useful to get those people on site knowing a bit more about Rotary. So, and there we go. There's a couple of our newer members with Colin. It's actually interesting that we now have 38% of females in our club, which is great. And we're certainly finding that they're keen to put in as our male members. So thank you for that. I have allowed some time to exit. And there we go. So that's 3:30. Are there any questions that anyone wants to ask? And you'll have to unmute yourself. I might throw a question out to Brian Slade, because Brian was also at the Fit for Purpose workshop. So, Brian, have you been able to institute, say, the membership night like Judy Ford suggested, or?
We haven't done that, but we have addressed some of the things about the formalities, and that was an interesting process, because the traditional members that have been members for some time felt that that was throwing out a lot of the tradition of the club. But I know that newer members and visitors were not particularly enamoured with fines. They didn't like some of the processes, so we've eliminated most of those. We still do the toast, but we don't do the fines. And we had a raffle, which was a club raffle on the day, and that again was well received by members, but not so much by visitors, even though we didn't force them to contribute. So we've tried to do away with a lot of the things that people see as impediments for coming to the club. But we haven't reached out to do that, but I think that it is still something we want to do. The other thing that we're working through, and I would hope to have in place by the end of this month, is our website. So we didn't want to institute a website and then not maintain it. So we wanted to make sure that we had engaged members who would be able to maintain the website, so that there was constantly new information there and that the information was correct. So we thought that having an out-of-date website was worse than not having one at all. So we've delayed that until we got to the point where we felt that we could do it. But reaching out and getting people to come along, we're looking at, we do our sausage sizzle, which is a ubiquitous thing that the clubs do, but we do ours at the basketball centre, and we get an opportunity to see a lot of the parents that come to that. And it occurred to me when you were going through that what we should do is reach out and make an offer if people wanted to come. And so rather than a fundraising sausage sizzle, that we have another event and get people to come along and be able to explain a bit more what Rotary does and engage with them in a social atmosphere. So I was impressed with what you've done at your club, and I think that maybe not a cocktail party, but something a little bit different, but still getting the right people in and a younger age group. So
yes.
We have done a number of things, but there's a lot more that we can do.
Yes, good, Brian. I'm glad it's sort of progressing. But that dilemma between the traditionalists who think they'll lose what Rotary is all about and what they've had for many years if they get rid of some of those elements is a challenge. It is a real challenge. But as I say, I know that some people coming from outside see it as a barrier, see it as weird. someone, Ted Mitchell, has said that they have a happy buck session rather than a fine session. We did institute a different thing where we had what we called the director of fun to have a bit of fun for a while. Our recent meetings have been too busy to actually have that, but we used to have people, not the same person each week, but come up with something a bit lighthearted that would involve all the club members and put in money. So there's a lot of ways if you're going to try and involve members and have that bit of lightness. David has put into the chat, he's put the link through to the Judy Ford model, so that's good. And Jeff has said, how did you promote your info night to the community? It was mentioned in our newsletter and on our website and things like that. But the thing was that there were specific invitations sent to about 15 people. So, and these were the people that the names were passed on from club members, or, as I say, who were sort of on the periphery and had shown interest. So there was one person who just rocked up who had seen it on Facebook. She was very, very young and probably was better as a potential for Rotaract. But we did use all our social media as well. But the people who responded were in the large, the people who had been invited specifically. And as I say, the handwritten letter did have impact because some rang to say specifically, I can't make it that night, but wow, that was effective to get a handwritten letter. Any other questions?
Yes, just a quick question, Jenny. When the new potential members arrive, did you have specific people to greet them and take care of them, or did you just let them merge into the crowd?
Well, all the members were keyed up to be on their absolute best behaviour and to be as friendly and welcoming. And we had a welcome desk, so they had to sort of register and get their little ticket for their free drink. And the club responded really well that where there was someone arrive and someone wasn't talking to anyone, they were up in a minute to talk to them. So it was wonderful the way the club responded and did that. So and I think they're really getting into the habit when someone comes of thinking we really need to be making this person feel welcome and not just welcomed by one person. And I think most of our speakers, when they come, get to talk to a good half dozen people, let alone any other visitors as well. So it's great. And it's great because we have a big club now. Sometimes we have 30 people in the room. Then there's plenty of scope for people to be interacting with visitors.
And as far as getting them to sign up to your newsletter, Jenny, do you ask that at the registration desk when they come in?
Yes.
Yeah.
So where they put their contact details down, there was a column for, do you wish to get our newsletter? Possibly a little bit of peer pressure. They just all went tick, 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 tick. No problems.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. I know our newsletter editor, whilst we have a long list, about once a year says, if you do not wish to be on this circulation list, let me know and I'll take you off the list. So it's not that we force people to have this newsletter going into their inbox. If it's of no interest, we're certainly happy to say, right, well, we'll take your name off the list if wanted. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you for your attention. I hope there's some information there that can be useful, and certainly I'd recommend having a look at the link to Judy Ford's model, because there's a sample letter there that I use as my model. I did alter it a little bit, but it was, I must admit, some of our members said we should do it about every 6 months, have an information night. Now, I don't know that we could come up with enough new visitors to do it every 6 months, but in terms of no pressure, come along and hear about our projects. It's if we can find people who are interested to come, it was a really good experience. So I do recommend having a look at that. So thank you all. Thank you, David, for organising the technology. And we can finish 6 minutes early, so you could all go and put your feet up.
Yeah.
And Jen, just on behalf of everybody here too, I'd like to say thanks so much for today's presentation. I think you did a sensational job. I think I could see everybody busily writing notes as you as you were talking. So I think that was an indication that we got a lot of hints and information out of it. So so thank you so much for doing that for us. And I think it just goes to show you that people are out there to volunteer, aren't they? It's a matter of reaching out so that we can actually get them into our fold. And once they see, dare I say it, the magic of Rotary, Colin, they'll know that it's a great organisation to be a part of. So, and I think you've showed us that it is possible. So thank you so much for that. And I think Bob, I might have wanted to say something too. So I want to hand over to Bob at this stage.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, Jen, one of the things you touched on but didn't really hammer home because I nagged you about it, with the information night, make sure no one mentions the word membership. It's not a membership night, not at all. It's information, because people don't want to come along to a club thinking it's going to be a membership drive. And the Fit for Purpose people were really hard on that. It's not a membership night. It's just information. You did a sensational job getting the letters out. We had a terrific night, but just so everyone's aware, make sure you don't mention the word membership. Not at all. Good job, Jen.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Yes.
Jen, this is Colin. To me, it's really important. This is best practice sharing. So clubs have all got variations on this, but this is, I mean, Roval Listerville has the highest growth in the district. So you're obviously following a process, and the process needs to be shared. We've got lots of clubs that are growing, which is really good, but I think there's some really good methodology associated with this. So well done to you, Jenny, and the club. Yep.
Sorry to bang on again. Jen, you didn't mention that the instigation of the continuity that you brought in as president. One of the things that we're very conscious of is a president comes in and, hey, I'm the president, I do everything my way. We've been working in a continuity program now for a couple of years, and it's still got a couple more years to run. And we think that that's had a really big impact on what we do, how we do it, and the vision that we have going forward, which is one of the reasons why, if we could think that we've been successful, why we've attracted people, because we have a flow going through it, essentially through the heart of our business. And that's thanks to you, Jen.
No, look, it's a great club.
Yeah.
Lots of willing workers, and
Yep.
It's an easy club to become part of, because you don't feel like everything's going to fall on your shoulders, because there's so many other people who are willing to work. So and that's an important part too. I know there's some clubs out there who are, it's always the same people who are doing the work, and I think that's very challenging. And I understand that once a club starts to shrink, and you want those projects to still continue, it just falls. And I know some people here that are just doing one thing after the other to keep their Rotary projects going, and that is hard, very hard.